Hey, what's up, all you outsiders out there? I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and I'm coming at you with another episode review of Young Justice Outsiders. This time it's Season three's episode 16, relevant number, and this is titled Illusion of Control, which is actually a very morbid suggestion once you actually start to kind of get into, the gist of this episode. It has a lot of meanings once you've seen the entire episode, but let's review it before we actually talk about how and why I feel that way. Now, we actually pick up in Taos at Star Labs, specifically the youth center out back, where we see a harvest festival is going on since, Thanksgiving and all that good stuff. Well, for those of you who celebrate Thanksgiving and all that, uh, I feel that there's a reason why a certain member of the, you know, one younger team that Eduardo was a part of didn't show up in this episode. But let's not get into that, as we see the blur that is Bart Allen setting everything up, greeting Jaime Reyes, Tracy 13, and Virgil Hawkins in through the Zeta tubes, and we also get the suggestion and the implication that Bart and Eduardo Jr. are dating, which Greg Weisman made it clear that there would be characters of that sexual persuasion in this series, but I wasn't expecting Bart. But I feel that Bart is probably the best choice, as Bart normally doesn't really have too many romantic attachments. He had one back during his original run, but that was when he was like aged up to a certain point, and I always felt dubious about that relationship because I'm just like, wait, does she know you're not actually that age, or are you technically around the same age, or does that make it weird? Lots of questions on that one. And then we had New 52, but that version was called Bartor, and he was from a completely other time period, and it was just like, well, he was in love with this character named Solstice, but like, does that really count as Bart? And now we have the regular Impulse back, and it's just like he doesn't have a romantic attachment. So if it had to be anyone, Bart seems like a good choice. And honestly, they're kind of cute together. We then cut back to Happy Harbor, where we actually see the family of aliens setting up for their own version of Thanksgiving dinner. Very sweet and nice, and I love Bug's enthusiasm with Forager. But Victor is less than happy about his current situation. Meanwhile, at the Harper residence in Star City, we have preparations going on there as well, where Artemis continues to give Will these interesting glances, and unfortunately, the person who ultimately does, in fact, notice most of this is Artemis's own mother. So, like, it's obvious it's gonna come up eventually. But as soon as Brion comes in with Tara, despite the fact that they were supposed to be at the youth center hanging out, Violet is still showing, she's still kind of thinking about previous events and what she in a previous life did. And with Dr. Helga Jace, she's hard at work researching, and apparently she's come across something very interesting. Alright, now back at Star Labs, we have a helicopter's approach, and it is in fact Beast Boy with his girlfriend Perdita. And we also come to find out that Tracy 13 and Jaime are dating, and Tracy's a big fan of Beast Boy as Torque in his TV series. But Virgil starts to feel a little left out because of the fact of, well, he's the only one without an actual relationship, He you have Bart and Eduardo, you have Tracy and Jaime, you have Perdita and Garfield. It's just like, and he's just really feeling left out at this point. We also have a moment where Paula is showing that she's taught Leanne her ABCs and all that. It's a very cutesy moment, very nice, sweet moment. One thing from the previous scene also is apparently Tracy said that Cassie Sandsmark is trying to repair her relationship with Tim, so I'm glad they're at least trying to work things out for the most part. But Artemis explains that, to Violet, like, hey, well, everyone showed up here because everyone wants to have this downtime. You know, Geoforce really wanted to be with Violet and all that good stuff. So, but she's still really, really dwelling on what she did in a past life, and I can't blame her for that, as it makes you feel like you're the one who caused the death of her parents. But there were a lot of outside factors that came into that, so it really is not her fault. And we also have seen, especially during the first season, how badly secrets can really damage a team. But we also have Helga Jace showing up in order to enjoy the Thanksgiving dinner with the whole family there. We also have this interesting kind of bumper car like ride going on with all these pairings and situations, which really leaves Virgil feeling left out. Speaking of which, we cut back to Victor with Forager coming in and being very ecstatic about the whole Thanksgiving holiday and all that good stuff. But Victor is less than interested in socializing and having, family bonding time, as, his only family turned him into, as he would call it, a monster. So he's still resentful to his father, which I'm always kind of dubious about this storyline with Victor because it feels like the obvious go-to one in terms of his character. But then again, uh, why would you change? Why fix what ain't broke, I guess? But Forager is determined to kind of bring Victor into the hive, show him caring and, kindness, nurturing, and all that good stuff. And honestly, I was kind of wondering what Forager's role in certain things was going to be, because it felt like he was being left out of story elements. But that's the thing about this series. Once you start to kind of think that a character isn't being featured predominantly enough, you have almost an entire episode just showing their character, their personality, and why you should love this character for the most part. And we get a lot of that good stuff here with Forager. Meanwhile, Wendy Windfall is still kind of broken up about the whole events of last episode, and Eduardo is broken up about the fact that she's broken up. And Perdita kind of asks Eduardo about this whole situation, and Eduardo Jr. feels like he failed. He wasn't able to provide her with what she needed in order to accept the powers that she, had forced onto her. So Perdita takes a moment to, kind of get Wendy's, spirits up, to kind of just talk to her like a normal person and kind of get her to come out of her shell after everything that happened. So it really goes to show the strength of Perdita's own character and how far she's come, especially considering she's not that prominent a character. But I like seeing these glimpses of just who she's grown into being. As, this character is a Greg Wiseman original, and it was introduced in like DC Showcase Green Arrow as, a little girl. And to actually see him develop this character that he created, not to stand at the forefront, but just be a good supporting character with a lot of nice qualities, that really speaks volumes about the way he writes. Just, he didn't create his own OC just to have them stand out. He created a nice, fleshed out character with growth and, a good relationships and just a nice character in total. Very beautiful. But, Garfield takes in how, thankful Eduardo is about Perdita and her kind personality. But, after a certain point, it becomes clear that Garfield's kind of wondering about, things in terms of the team hasn't really been the way he wanted it to go. He wanted to step out and do things the way he needed to. As Eduardo says that they need some kind of grand gesture to kind of lift the spirits of all the metahuman teens in general. And that's what Beast Boy wants. As much as he likes being with the team, he feels that he's not doing enough in the way that he needs to do it. He doesn't just want to help out here and there on various covert missions. He wants to stand at the forefront and show the world why these meta-human teen issues really need to be taken seriously. And I love this because time and time again in Beast Boy's history, he's usually kind of shown as very selfish and self-centered, and his whole experience in terms of the media is kind of played up as just this thing that was just like, that's Beast Boy being Beast Boy, selfish, egotistical, and just loving the spotlight. But here he wants to do it for a good cause. He wants to do it for a reason. He has a great sense of motivation, and I love seeing this side of his character. He really wants to step out and do something to show that, metahuman issues are a must, a prominent role. And we've had this build up into this factor with Beast Boy, and I'm loving the fact that we've had this. That's character growth. That's character development from a character who's just had this story arc going on throughout these past 3 seasons. Again, great continuity. Not in the fairless way of saying that, but in the more uplifting way. But apparently there was something in the cotton candy as Garfield starts to feel a little bit ugh. But it takes out everyone at the entire festival. They all go down, and we come to find out this is the work of Count Vertigo and his henchman Henchy, who have come to kidnap Perdita. And what he says that it's, Vertigo says that it's not in terms of killing her and regaining the throne. He says there are much worse things that they can do, as Garfield is completely unable to pursue and follow. However, Wally does manage to recover quick enough, and he starts to give chase. Unfortunately, because of Count Vertigo's abilities, Wally can't get anywhere near it, and neither can the rest of the team, and all they can really do is just follow. Meanwhile, Cyborg, kind of basically just moping around outside, is confronted by a very cold Forager who's not used to colder weather. But Forager really wants Victor to come in and be with, as he puts it, the Hive, his family. But Victor continues to kind of fight against it. So Forager kind of puts in the implication that Victor is more like a caterpillar, and one day he will blossom into who he's truly supposed to be. And as Forager returns inside to the worm, Victor kind of takes this comment to heart that maybe there's something more that he can become later down the line. Meanwhile, as the team gives chase to Count Vertigo, Tracy uses her, bad luck abilities, I guess it is. In the original series, she had, in her original presentation, she had just regular magical abilities, but, luck manipulation and all that, it's a more interesting take on her abilities. And she causes her abilities to cause the fuel line to come uncoupled, causing Vertigo to end up going down in the Pueblo in Taos, where the team gives chase. Meanwhile, at the Harper, dinner table, everything seems to be going pretty well. They're talking things over. It's a very nice family moment. And Paula couldn't be more proud of what Artemis is doing with the fact that, she's earning her bachelor's and soon she'll have her master's. She's come a long way. Unfortunately, Helga Jace kind of unfortunately lets it slip that she's rejoined the team and is raising the young new generation of heroes, much to the dismay of Paula. And they get into a whole situation with, Paula just saying that, she's disappointed because after all the time that it took Artemis to recover from the loss of Bart, after the, what happened to her and the loss of her legs, she even cites what happened to Barbara and the loss, both of them ending up in wheelchairs. She had hoped that Artemis would have finally left the life behind and possibly even settled down with Will. And despite the fact that Artemis refutes that there's anything going on between her and Will, and with a lot of evidence that we've seen in previous episodes in the season to the contrary, Paula exposits that, hey, Cheshire isn't coming back. Jade isn't coming back. She's fully devoted herself to the life, but, with Artemis there, Leanne could have the possibility of actually having a mother finally. And Will obviously cares for Artemis, but I don't know how I feel about that thought. Just, Artemis just kind of moving in and all that good stuff, but at the same time, I feel like maybe Jade wouldn't be opposed to that. Like maybe she just accept that, Leanne actually has a family dynamic that can just stick with her for the most part. Meanwhile, back at the Pueblo, the team can't seem to find hide nor hair of Vertigo whatsoever. And when Blue Beetle tries to get a bird's eye view, the walls seem to grow up. But Scarab lets him know that he's just hovering a few feet off the ground, letting Blue Beetle know that they're being psychically manipulated, despite the fact that Vertigo doesn't have that kind of power set. So Garfield uses his transformation into a bear in order for him to just sniff things out, find their location, and he'll just lead the rest of the team along the way, where it leads them directly into Henshi, who shows that something's not right about Henshi, as he never had super strength before, like when he manages to push aside the bear-sized Beast Boy. And when Count Vertigo starts to show concern towards Henshi, Bardita uses this moment to deliver a swift kick to the knackers to Count Vertigo, which causes him to lose the illusion, showing that he is in fact Simon from Onslaught, and showing that Henshi was in fact Devastation in disguise. And, she ends up running to the aid of Simon, who kind of got the shit beat out of him by Perdita. Go Perdita, like, man, nice. And she escapes with Simon, and Beast Boy shows his concern over Perdita, and Virgil shows his concern over his lack of a love life. But Garfield's kind of questioning the fact that why would Simon and Devastation disguise themselves as Count Vertigo and Henshi? What's the point of all of this? Only for Eduardo to realize, Simon, Devastation, part of Onslaught. Onslaught was the one who kidnapped all the kids who were located, at the youth center in Taos, making him realize that Onslaught is in fact at the youth center to recapture the lost children. However, everyone makes it back and manages to rescue all of the children. And, Eduardo, no, it was either Eduardo or Bart who questioned why Holocaust is a part of all of this. Weren't you also one of Queen Bee's thralls and all that good stuff? Only for us to actually learn that Holocaust is actually being paid for his services. So he's all about this. But even in terms of the Milestone comics and all that, Holocaust was always kind of a jerk. So it makes sense to me at the very least. But Bart manages to use Holocaust and Icicle's impulsiveness against each other, as Icicle Jr. manages to freeze Holocaust, and Holocaust ends up frying Icicle Jr., knocking them both out. And with a little help from Tracy 13, Blue Beetle manages to knock Tommy into the little cage enclosure there, and Beast Boy restrains Tuppence, but Tuppence manages to use her father box to open up a boom tube underneath Bart and Eduardo, but they manage to escape before it can take them anywhere. Static disarms her of the father box, and he shoots it through the boom tube, getting that away from her, as Eduardo gets one of the collars around Tuppence, and Beast Boy knocks her out. And while Tommy does manage to recover, Static, gets one of the collars around Tommy, and Beast Boy knocks him out as well. And as everyone starts to recover, Perdita claims that maybe Beast Boy should go so they can keep their covert ops, covert. But Beast Boy has other plans, finally getting us to the head of everything that he's been leading up to with the past few episodes with him in it. Meanwhile, at the Harper residence, as Artemis continues to feed Bruce Lee as she calls it, bribes because of his cuteness, this causes Violet to kind of react to this and exclaim that the dog shouldn't take bribes. And as she storms out, Dr. J says that she'll go after Violet to kind of talk things out because of their close relationship. And outside, Violet tells Dr. Jace of her fears that if she were to if she tells her about the backstory that Gabrielle had, accepted a bribe from Henshi. She opened the doors. Jakuli came in, killed the royal family, and because of that, she fears that if Brion were to know, or even Terra, that they would never look at her the same. They look at her at, because of the fact that she is in the body of essentially someone who assisted in the murder of their family. But Helga does her best to kind of calm Violet down, says that you're no longer that person. You shouldn't have to worry about that anymore. But, Violet swears her to not tell anyone. And as Helga gets Violet to go back inside, Dr. Jace makes a very interesting call to someone. It kind of makes me wonder. It's just like, is this a red herring possibly, that we're being led to believe there's something going on with Dr. Jace that there actually isn't? Or is Dr. Jace actually on the side of evil? It really does make me wonder. There's a wide array of potential situations that we could be seeing. And Greg Wiseman does, in fact, love his misdirections. So I wouldn't even be surprised if we were being led to believe something that's not at all true. And we see back at the Moore's Kent household, I guess we could call it. Victor actually takes the time to come in and actually enjoy Thanksgiving dinner, much to the delight of Forager. We also see that Garfield has convinced Blue Beetle and Kid Flash to, just kind of out themselves for the most part to the public because of the whole incident, because the press was going to show up anyway with the whole situation. So he does his best to kind of spin things on the fact that we need to do this in order to keep these metahuman children safe and show that there is a safe space for kids like these, that we will always be there to help them out whenever needed, and to push the agenda of helping out metahumans. I love the fact that we've come this far with that whole situation with Bart, with Garfield, I should say, because it seemed like a just off the cuff kind of situation, but he's really playing a very pivotal role in terms of his stance on how metahumans should be treated for the public, towards the public, and all that good stuff. I really enjoy that we've gone in this direction with this. And as Static starts to wonder, like, is this right? Should we be doing something like this? Isn't it against the rules? Eduardo, kind of takes a positive stance to this, as he notices that Wendy seems to be really chatting things up and opening herself, to Perdita, and taking enjoyment out of the fact that there are some positive role models in the young superhero community. And Eduardo is happy about this. He feels a sense of positive reinforcement over this. And when one character, Cecile, who's also known in the comics as Jet, a hero from Jamaica, shows that she's very interested in these young boy superheroes and finds them very cute. Static does his best in order to kind of play into it and talk her up, only to fail miserably. Poor Static. I know your pain, man. I know your pain. I know it all too well. And Beast Boy, on the other hand, he's ecstatic over this. He couldn't be happier, because this is what he wanted. This is the direction he needed things to go in. And this is the kind of, spin that he felt that was needed in order to bring down all the positive press that people like Lex Luthor and Granny Goodness continue to constantly get throughout all of this. They continue to just be seen as these positive figures in the media, and while the Justice League continually, time after time after time again, continue to just be seen as these out of control rogues. They need to get the public on their side, and that's the way that they'll ultimately manage to take down Lex and Granny. Don't give them the foothold that they need in order to tie up the League's hands. Put that positive out take on things, and they can go farther than they could have ever imagined. But tell me your thoughts on this episode in the comment section below. How do you feel about Helga Jace and her examinations of Violet and that phone call? Something is definitely up with her, but it really is hard to say. I've seen a benevolent Helga Jace before, and I've seen a venomous, vicious, and mean-spirited Dr. Jace. Normally her take is just that she wants to experiment and nothing else, but it's really hard to tell when you could go anywhere with such a minor character who doesn't have that much, staying power in terms of the comics. You could do a lot with her character and personality. And what do you think about the implications that Artemis and Will might be in a relationship? Would you be okay with that? And what about the fact that, Wally could always come back? We know he's trapped in the Speed Force. What happens if he comes back and Artemis has accepted, being in a relationship with Will? I'd feel bad for Wally losing 2 years of his life and his girlfriend to boot. There's also the fact that Victor is still needs some time to really come out of his shell, to kind of grow into the superhero we all know he can be. We've seen hero Victor Stone plenty of times. It just feels like we're going through the motions. So, because I'm so versed in a lot of DC media lore, it's just kind of like, oh god, this again, because I've seen him in Teen Titans, I've seen him in Doom Patrol, I've seen him in the Justice League animated movies and stuff, like Justice League War, and going forward from that, I've seen him in the live action Justice League and the way he worked out in that. And it's just, I've done this song and dance with Cyborg before, so maybe that's why I'm kind of thrown by it. But I was glad to actually see this side of the team, and I can't wait to actually get back to Tim and Bruce Wayne and Spoiler and Orphan. Hell, I was so glad to actually have Orphan involved in things. I would love to actually see them have some more spotlight on for at least a good episode. But that's what my hopes and theories are. Tell me yours in the comment section below. If you liked this video, feel free to leave me a like. If you didn't, feel free to leave me a dislike and tell me what I did wrong in the comment section below. Subscribe and hit the bell icon, that way you never miss out on another Young Justice Outsiders episode review. And if you want to find me on social media, just Google Duuz-Diz-Din. I am everywhere, for better or for worse. Maybe I should start, putting that in the description or something. And until the next video, just remember that when you really need to take control of a situation, giving a positive spin never hurt anyone. Unless you're evil. Might have hurt a few people. I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and I'm going to bed. Bye-bye.